Hello, and welcome back. So, I hope everybody had a pretty good Memorial Day weekend last weekend. I know if y'all are like me, it was just okay because it's not the same if you can't hit up a cookout or, throw a bushel of crabs on the table with a couple of beers and chill back. Stand up, Baltimore. But I did catch some deals, so it was alright. With that out the way, let's get into it, y'all. Today, we are talking about sleep training. Yes, sleep training is hard as all get out, but it is an out-of-body experience when your kid finally sleeps through the night. Man, I'm telling you, for me, it was magical because I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I have mentioned this in every video up to date about the day and night confusion, okay? And I think the fact that I bring that up so much, I might still be traumatized, y'all, like for real. Because the best way to describe it is your child goes on a 6 to 8 week trip to Vegas. Plain and simple. Like during the day, they're taking leisurely naps. They're doing a little bit of day drinking, but they chilling because they trying to go out later, sitting poolside, just chilling. Man, as soon as the sun goes down, they are all the way live. All right? They taking shots. They hitting the buffet. They basically strolling the strip, i.e. you walking through your house like a crazy person trying to figure out what they need and how to get them to sleep. So, that is basically day and night confusion in a nutshell. And like I said, lasts for 6 to 8 weeks. We got the brunt of it. We got 8 weeks, y'all. And I had to really figure out how I was going to make it so that we didn't have these issues long term. Because basically your child's circadian rhythm is not regulated yet. So they don't know, okay, during the day I should be up. At night, okay, this is when we sleep. So a few tips for you. During the day, you want to make sure that you keep your house as regular as possible. If you want to listen to music, you listen to music. If you want to watch your shows, watch your shows. If you have animals, if your dog gets to barking at somebody, dropping off the mail or whatever, let that dog bark. Do not stop them. If you have other children, don't keep shushing them. Let them be them. Let them do them. Do not let your child nap in the same area where they sleep at night. So we got lucky. We found a high chair that actually reclines. So during the day, my son was out in the living room. And in my living room, I have big windows and they let in a lot of natural light. So he was in the living room, fully lit. He slept in his reclined high chair. And I kept my life as normal as possible to let him know, like, nah, bruh, you need to wake up. So also, other things to do, 9 times out of 10, when your child does wake up around that time, it's going to be the nurse. And of course, we all know in the beginning, they fall right back to sleep. They usually fall asleep nursing. But if you can, talk to them, sing to them, shake a rattle or something, tickle them. Try to keep them awake a little bit longer than just long enough to latch on your boob and get a little bit of milk and then fall right back to sleep. So that's to help you with getting them acclimated to the day. For at night, you want to have them sleeping, in a separate area. Of course, he was in the bassinet, and in our room, we got blackout curtains. So at night, we definitely kept the room dark. That's another thing. Keep your room dim. Like, I know you're going to have to get up to feed and to change diapers and things like that. We were actually able to find these little flashlight lanterns. And they had like 2 settings. So we would always keep it on the lowest setting, kind of off in the corner so it wasn't super bright. And that gave us enough light to change him, or if the TV had gone off by the time he woke up, I had a little bit of light, I could sit up and nurse him. And also swaddling. Yes, swaddling is everything because they feel all safe and cozy. They're like, oh, mommy's just loving on me. So swaddling helps a lot with getting them acclimated to sleeping at night. Also, coming up with a nightly regimen, could help out too. If you want to bring in your lavender lotions, if you want to get them all, tired out with a nice soothing bath, stuff like that, do it. Like, you just have to figure out how to make them understand this is how it should be this time of day, and this is how it can be at this time of day. So yeah, those things will help you. Definitely helped us. But yeah, I feel like we should have been forewarned, because I was in the hospital looking plumb dumb. Like, my son was born at 10:30 in the morning. That first day, he slept all day and night. We would have to wake him to feed him. It was all good. And I even asked I was like, dude, are we really this lucky? We got a baby that sleeps. That's what's up, And he allowed us to believe that, because the next day, it was the same thing. Like, he slept. We had to wake him to nurse. My parents came to the hospital. We kind of got him to stay awake a little bit. He kind of hung with them. And then he went back to sleep. But then, the sun started going down. At the time, it was November, so it was like 5:30 in the evening. And my man was like, what's up? What we doing tonight? And I was like, hold up. You wasn't like this yesterday. And at first, it was cool, because it's 5:30 in the evening. Like, okay, we cool. But then 3 o'clock rolled around. I was like, I looked at my husband. I was like, yo, I need him to go to sleep. And he was like, yeah, he's not going to sleep anytime soon. And I was like, this ain't right. Like, what's going on here? But I found out later on, my mother-in-law actually dealt with that with my husband. And that's why people always say, like, yeah, you're not going to get a lot of sleep, because it's so common, but nobody wants to call it what it is and actually put that information out there willingly. Like, you can find it. Kelly Mom, check it out. But I did my own research to find out about it. It wasn't something that was mentioned to me in centering. It wasn't something that was mentioned to me by the nurses. And it definitely wasn't something that was talked about in the Life of the Newborn class. So it was just something that I had to live and learn. So now y'all got that, just in case you need it. But on to our sleep training journey. It was not easy, and I don't think it ever really is easy or supposed to be easy, but it wasn't terrible. So we started talking about sleep training when my son was about 4 months old. By then, the day and night confusion had ceased. We had a regular thing working about, how many times I was nursing at night, and we were sleeping I was getting about a good 6 hours of sleep around feedings and stuff like that. So I wasn't dragging terribly, but at the same time, I knew that at some point I was going to want to sleep soundly through the whole night, and I wasn't about to be dealing with, a 1-year-old who still isn't sleeping through the night. That wasn't going to work for me. So it actually came shortly after our 4-month wellness check, because we had talked to our doctor about starting solid foods. And so she gave us all the information about the solids and things like that. And afterwards, I told my husband, I was like, yeah, you do realize if we start him on solids, he'll be eating heavier food, and that might help us with sleep training a little bit, and he was like, all right, well, let's just start him on the solid foods first. Let's do one thing at a time. I was like, I'm giving you that, but I'm just saying, we might need to start trying to figure out which way we're going to go with that. And we actually waited like a whole nother month before we even started him on solid foods. But once we started him on solid foods, then we actually started a nightly routine. And that routine has stuck with us through, well, actually that original routine only lasted a whole nother month, because by the time we went to the 6-month checkup, we asked our doctor if it was wrong that we wanted to put him to bed later, because in the beginning we were feeding him like 5 o'clock in the evening, and then we would try to do his bath around about 6, 7 o'clock. We were like, we got to get this boy in the bed by about 8. That's what a good parent would do, right? Yeah. So then early to bed, early to rise. We aren't early risers. Like, me and my husband, we always and still do go to bed about midnight to 2 a.m. So that's how we rock. You know what I'm saying? And that was one of the things that our pediatrician let us know. Shout out to Dr. Maria. Yes, I love her. But she kept it real with us. She was like, first of all, you need to take into account your household. Like, if y'all don't go to bed at 9 o'clock in the evening, why would you put your baby down at 8 o'clock when you're not going to be up at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning? Like, it's not going to happen. And you're going to get annoyed because you're still going to be tired, but you're trying to work this routine into something that's not normal for y'all. And then she also told us about, you know, having the routine, you know, just making sure you stick to it. And I like asking our pediatrician about these things. You know, when you are thinking about starting the sleep train, yes, you can do all the research, but talk to your pediatrician, because the reason I like talking to ours is because not only can I get her professional opinion on it, I can also get her personal opinion, because she has children of her own, you know, and she has more than one. So she has a variety of experiences. What may it not have worked for one, work for the other. So I like to keep her in my pocket. Like, yeah, you know, I know I can always ask her these things. So we started it. We started that up. And we said, okay, we're starting way too early. We still want to have our time after he goes down. What can we do? So what we did was we started feeding him at 8 o'clock in the evening. In the beginning, of course, you know, you're starting something new, so it wasn't like a boom, 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 okay, we're done. But we were usually able to be done about 8:30 to 8:45. At that time, we would then go upstairs to our bonus room and play, do a little tummy time, play some music, just try to get that last little burst of energy out of him. And at the time, he was still in our room, so then we would come downstairs, we would put him in the tub in our bathroom, and after we got him dressed and everything, I would swaddle him, I would nurse, we would cuddle, and the ultimate goal was to have him laying in his by this time he's moved down to the lower part into the playpen, and the goal was to have him in there by 10 o'clock, 10:30 at the latest. And then once I did that, I turned off the light, I left out of the room. We would leave the door cracked, but my husband and I would just sit on the couch and watch whatever we chose to watch for the evening. And for the most part, that worked. My son actually would go down, and we figured out that if we did stay up till about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, by the time we were coming into the room to go to bed, he would be waking up for another nursing. So then I would nurse him really quick in this chair. I love this glider. But I would nurse him, and so I would actually nurse him and get him back down and then be able to get into the bed. And so when it was time to nurse him again, it was actually closer to a time I didn't mind getting up, because it was usually about 7, 8, which sounds like, oh, well, you still getting up early? Yeah, but I got to sleep about 5 hours at that point, you know what I'm saying? So it's like 7, 8 o'clock. I would nurse him. I wasn't working, you know, I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I wasn't working. So after I would nurse him, 9 times out of 10, he would kind of drift back off for another couple of hours. I could get back in the bed and get mine another couple of hours. So it worked out really good for a while. It was cool. And then at that time, he was taking 2 naps a day, and he would go down between 11 and 1, and then he would take an evening nap between 4 and 6. And so then around about 7 months old, we were getting into that window where AAP, the American Association of Pediatrics, suggests that your child stay in your room up until 6 months to a year. So being 7 months old, I'm like, okay, we were genuinely pushing for a year to keep him in our room, because our room is on the lower level and his room is upstairs. So we were really pushing for a year. And at 7 months, I was like, okay, even though we're pushing for a year, he needs to be familiar with his room, because you can't just, you can't just spring that on your kid. Like, you can't just be like, oh, you want to sleep in here now. You can't do that. So what I started doing was, for his nap times, I would take him in his room, and it worked out perfectly. Like, he never had any issues. He was never afraid when he woke up in his room, because usually I was putting him in there after he was already asleep. So he never woke up afraid. And slowly he became very familiar with his room. He knew where that place was and he liked it. And so that lasted for about a month before it started causing problems at night. And so you got to remember, I'm putting him in his crib with a nice mattress. And then at night, I'm bringing him to a playpen with that thin little pallet. Like, my awesome, amazing, soundly sleeping child went from waking up at this point once a night to waking up 3 times a night. And guess what? That only lasted for a week, because I was like, something's not right. We need to figure this out. And so me and my husband had to have the hard talk, like, bruh, he might want to be in his bed now, because he's getting that taste of it at nap time. And so after we talked about it, and I cried about it because I was so emotional. I'm still emotional, I'm not gonna lie. But after that, we decided that we would put him up there for a week and see what happens. And thankfully, my son, his room is a part of a Jack and Jill joining room suite type thing. So he was in his room, I stayed in the connecting room. And every night when, after me and my husband watched our shows and stuff and it was time for bed, I would go up there and I would creep in through the bathroom and check on him and make sure he was good. And I kept an audio monitor in my room, and right before we put him in his room, we went and found the Amazon Cloud Cam, so that we could look in on our phones and actually see him. So that worked out really good, because I was a nervous wreck. I was not ready for none of it. Okay, so it went past a week. It was a week and a half, because I was not ready to come back down. But he never woke. Like, that whole time I was up there, he never woke to feed at night. Like, we had no issues. It wasn't until probably a couple of weeks after I finally went back downstairs that he started having those moments where he was, waking up. But he would only still wake up once a night. But he hadn't been doing it, so it was just kind of like, when you get into a routine, you're like, take your butt to bed, But that only happened about 6 or 7 times up until he was about a year old. But yeah, he didn't have any problems. But other than that, we were doing great. And then around about 15 months, my little guy decided to let us know that his crib couldn't hold him anymore. And so now I'm going to let y'all in on a couple of secrets. If your child stands in their crib, the top of the railing should end here. It should end at the collarbones. If it is coming down your child's chest into their stomach area, it's time to either lower the mattress, and if they are all the way at the lowest setting, it's time to convert or buy that toddler bed. It's time, because the worst thing that can happen out of a toddler bed is they fall, a foot to the ground. If they fall from a 4-foot crib, it can be detrimental. So no lower than the clavicle, and most cribs do have the adjustable height for the mattress. So start there. If you adjust the mattress and you're still good, then cool. But if you get all the way to that lower setting, the time has come. And that's what happened. At 15 months, I wasn't even ready for that. I thought he would be like 3 or something. But at 15 months, my little guy was in a toddler bed. And the way that we made that transition, we first tested out how he would react to it at nap time. So we set it all up and everything, and it was so cute because as soon as we were done, he went over and he was trying to pull himself up. Of course, we've taught him how to get in and out of it since, but at first he wasn't ready for it. And so he tried to pull up and we helped him in, and he just crawled up and he laid down. And I was like, okay, well, I guess somebody's ready for a nap. And so that's what we did. We made up, we made his bed up and everything, and I nursed and I laid him down. And so our main objective was to actually just see, like, to watch the camera, see how he would do, see what he would do. And he stayed down. He did not get out of the bed. Even when he woke up, he just stood up on the side railing and, like, waited for one of us to come in there. Because, like I said, we had the cams, so we usually get a notification, and usually he does not have to cry for us to come in there. Like, he doesn't cry. He just doesn't. He just stands there, like, eventually somebody come up in here, like, I'm good. So, that's what happened. It's been a couple of times, though, he's kind of, like, worked his way out of it through the little opening. And he'll get out, and he'll stand up and walk over to the door, and thank God he cannot turn the doorknob yet. But he'll go to his door and, like, just kind of grab the doorknob, and then he'll be like, okay, nobody's coming yet. And he'll get back in the bed and lay down. I'm like, yo, this dude is funny. But by 15 months, he was down to 1 nap a day. And the window has shifted a little bit. It's gone back, it's gone forward. But basically, between 1 and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, he gets, at the most, what we will give him, a 2-hour nap. But his body has biologically decided that 1.5 hours is all he needs, and that's all we get. So now at this point, my man is 18 months, and he's still taking 1 nap a day, still from 1 to 4, and still, 1.5 hours. But his behavior has changed again. And so with that happening, I have this book. It is called The Play School Guide to the Toddler Years by Rebecca Rutledge, PhD. And shout out to my sister-in-law, Kim. She actually gave this to me. She and my brother-in-law recently moved to Scotland. So before they left, she sent me a huge box of all these books and toys for my son. But she also bestowed some gems on me. So I've been diving into this a bit because, like I said, his behavior's changed a lot. And so now he's 18 months, he don't want to eat. So, yay! That might be the next video. I'll let y'all know. But I did want to check on this about the sleep training as well, just to see what it had to say. And just like Dr. Maria said, take your household into account. But one thing that I found was funny. They said that some experts don't feel like you need a routine. And I think they may very well be right, because not everybody needs a routine. Some people can just wing it and boom, they just know when to cut off their day, or when, that time is approaching, they just automatically shift. My husband and I are not those people. We need a to-do list for everything. You get what I'm saying? So we knew off the break we couldn't just be those people to not have a regular routine. Like now, up until recently, putting my son down at 10 o'clock had been the regular routine. But we have recently shifted back a half an hour just because we were starting to notice, like, by the time he was getting into the tub, he was like restless, and he was just like, oh my God, just put me to bed. Like, I'm tired of you people. You get what I'm saying? So we've scaled back everything a half an hour. So now he's dinner at 7:30. He goes up to play at 8. He gets in the tub by 8:30, and then by 9, basically at this point, he's refusing my breast and wanting to be laid down. So I think my baby may also be self-weaning, so that's good, but it's also crushing at the same time, because I'm like, okay, so you don't need me, that's cool. But yeah, so that is what we're doing now. But if you don't really feel like you need routine, that's fine. But one thing that our pediatrician and that book does say does have in common is that you do need to maintain consistency. Consistency is key, because if you want your child to go down every night at the same time, you have to make sure that you do whatever you need to do leading up to that, or just cut off all activity so that they can be in the bed by that time. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to sit here and act like, oh, we followed our routine to the letter every time. That's not true. Because there's been times we've thought, okay, we're just going to run out real quick to run this one errand, right? We've all had that. You run out really quick. You think it's going to be like 15, 20 minutes. Before you know it, you're rolling back in the house right at the time you're actually supposed to be feeding your child. So then you got to turn around, prepare their stuff. That pushes you out about 10, 15 minutes. Then you got to actually feed them, right? So everything is pushed out further. And then you're like, dang, man, like, tonight was rough. Like, after you know, you look at each other like, yo, you alright? Like, I almost cried like 3 times. But consistency is key. You don't necessarily need a routine. Talk to your pediatrician, see what they got to say about it. Yeah, it's not easy. I just wish you much success, and hopefully, you know, some of these tips that I'm throwing out here will be helpful. And yeah, that is it, y'all. That is everything I got. Like, hopefully we can stay on this path, and hopefully, you know, he'll continue to have sound sleeping nights, and I don't have to worry about him getting out of bed and opening his door and doing crazy things upstairs by himself. But I'll keep y'all posted. You never know. And honestly, when is the right time to start sleep training? I don't know. Figure out what works for you. If you're happy in your routine right now, if you don't mind your child being up all hours of the night, because maybe you're up all hours of the night and it works for both of y'all to take nice leisurely naps during the day, that's what works for your house. And can't nobody tell you that's wrong, because there's no right or wrong way to do what you do. It just has to work for you. So, with that said, I'm out of here. Make sure y'all like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Insta. I'm going to keep it coming. And until next time, peace.